If they can get Ian McShane on Sherlock, I would watch it.
Well, I'm going to watch Sherlock regardless of who they get on it.
All right, fair enough. But I would, like, doubly watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I would extra watch. Like, whatever amount I would watch it twice that. Which would be quite a lot anyway, because I tend to watch these episodes over and over again anyway.
Well, okay.
I'm just letting you know.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
So his last vow.
Yeah, the last one of his vows.
I don't really know why they call it that.
Well, I think the intention was to be like a callback to the previous episode, right? Like, because he vows to protect John and Mary or whatever.
I think this is less a call back to that than that's a call forward to this.
All right, that's yeah.
And
yeah,
I think for some reason they've decided that every episode is going to be the name of a classic Sherlock Holmes story, but not quite.
Okay.
Like there was The Empty House, which in this case was The Empty Hearse.
Oh.
There was The Sign of 4, which in this case is The Sign of 3. And there was His Last Bow, which in this case is His Last Vow. And none of these stories are adaptations of those respective stories. They have nothing to do with one another. The only reference is that the title is kind of a weird version of that other title.
Right. Because, I'm having trouble remembering the other titles, but I know, like, A Study in Pink. I mean, obviously that's supposed to be, that's very closely related to A Study in Scarlet, but that also follows very loosely the events of A Study in Scarlet.
Yeah, very loosely. I mean, the whole case is very different, but the episode is full of like superficial similarities to what goes on in Study in Scarlet. Yeah, and same thing with the Hounds of Baskerville. Okay, it's a very different story, but there are a lot of like surface level similarities.
So wait, are those titles exactly the same, or no? It's because it was the Hound.
The Hound of the Baskervilles, as opposed to the Hounds of Baskerville.
Okay, I see. So they switched the plurals.
Yes. They went and switched those plurals.
Right. But now it seems like Moffat and Gatiss have kind of gone off the deep end and are just trying to come up with these bizarre and misleading titles.
Pretty much.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, I'd be happy with them not doing that. I mean, because the thing is, this is kind of a little bit lost on me because I haven't read much Sherlock Holmes. I'm not terribly familiar with Sherlock Holmes. And I mean, that's something I would like to correct at one point. But I mean, for the time being, all of this is kind of wasted on me, the viewer. So I mean, obviously a more knowledgeable Sherlock Holmes fan would pick up on all these things, but I mean, I am not that.
In this case, the case of this particular episode, the only similarity between this episode and His Last Bow is that His Last Bow contains a reference to the East Wind, which in the case of His Last Bow is World War One. So, which leads me to wonder: is Sherlock going to do a World War I story? Are they going to do a modern day World War I?
Would that be World War III, or are we assuming that in this universe World War I has not happened?
I don't know.
Like they skipped World War I and went right to World War II.
Well, it could be like Kings, where they just have a vague version of those events that takes place in a world that's kind of like the present day world or something. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. You know, if they can get, what is it, Ian McShane?
Yeah.
If they can get Ian McShane on Sherlock, I would watch it.
Well, I'm going to watch Sherlock regardless of who they get on it.
All right, fair enough. Maybe this is supposed to be like a transitional stage where like next season they're just going to abandon cutesy titles altogether.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are still plenty more stories left that they could do cutesy titles for if they felt like it. But
well, yeah, because apparently they don't even need to try very hard.
yeah, I guess not.
They got plenty to work with.
There is a story in a Sherlock Holmes story that features a blackmailer named Charles Augustus Milverton.
Okay, yeah, I actually looked that up. But yeah, so did they just figured they'd change the last name?
Yeah, I think they wanted him to be like some kind of foreign guy, basically. So they just changed it.
Yeah, you know, foreigners. That's gotta watch out for foreigners.
Yep. So what did you think of this episode?
You know, I liked it, but it's probably the episode this season that I liked the least.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was the episode I liked the second most.
Ah.
Yeah.
And you know, well, the thing is, and as I said, I did like it, but I felt like, I don't know, I felt like there was really no, you know, this is kind of like the only episode in this season that doesn't really have, I guess I want to say, a mystery.
I mean, no, there really isn't a mystery as such, I guess. There are facts that come to light, I guess.
That's true. That's true.
Or a mystery that some mysteries that had been ongoing throughout the season are sort of brought up. Like, for instance, what was the deal with John getting put in that fire?
That's true.
And also, I don't know if this necessarily qualifies as a mystery, but Mary's backstory was kind of left vague, and it was clear that something was going on because she's an orphan, and you don't just put orphans on TV unless there's a reason they're orphans.
Of course.
I don't know if I've ever read a story where someone is an orphan, but that's not important.
That's a good point. You know, I hadn't thought about that aspect, but I guess that is a good point. Yeah, I guess yeah. I guess so. Yeah, so I guess it's kind of like a meta mystery in that, like, well, it's like a mystery. No, actually, I don't know. It's like a mystery that we, the audience, were trying to solve or something. I'm not sure, but I don't know. It just, in my mind, it seemed less like, because I mean, you know, there's a part where Mary is considered to be like a client, like she's coming to Sherlock and Watson with a problem, but it's not really like, it's not like a mystery that needs solving. It's more like it's
like they need to bring down a criminal, basically. So
Right.
It's, instead of discovering the answer to a question, it's trying to like come up with a plan to overcome this impossible task.
Right. Well, a task that's impossible insofar as Sherlock messed what would have been a perfect plan up the first time around by showing up and getting in the way.
Right, true.
And that's kind of another thing is, I thought it was weird that Mary almost had this thing solved on her own using her super elite training or whatever to, like, I don't know, get past, you know, security and whatnot. And then it kind of switches over to, like, Sherlock takes this on as being his responsibility. And I thought that was kind of strange how, like, Mary had this thing covered and then Sherlock, for whatever reason, decided, nah, he's going to do it instead.
And, well, I mean, what should he have done at that point?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, I'm just saying it was kind of strange.
Well, I mean, and he ended up using the same solution she was going to use.
Well, that's true. That's true. Although I mean, like, that was kind of, I have to say that was kind of, it seems weird that that's like the resolution, because in that sort of moment it seems like well, what are we gonna, like, I mean, I don't know, because it's kind of like this, this big reveal that, like, no, you thought there were these vaults, but there's actually nothing. It's all in this guy's head, and like, oh man, how are they gonna get the files now when it's all in his head? They can't get files out of there. That's crazy. And then obviously Sherlock just shoots him in the head, and it seems like so obvious. Although, you know, yeah, that was exactly what Mary was already going to do.
Yeah, it was. Well, I liked that resolution actually, because it was something I absolutely wasn't expecting.
That's true. Me neither. I did not see that coming at all.
But once it did happen, I was like, oh well, I guess I buy that character doing that in that way at that moment. So
Right.
So yeah, I actually found that kind of satisfying. But it's not like he there was a point where he came in and decided, okay, Mary, you've been doing this, but we're taking it over now. It was like he stumbled in by accident and screwed up her plan.
Well, right. So it's almost like he's trying to atone. In a sense.
He was already going after him, though.
Well, that's true. So, killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
One of those birds, literally.
Yes.
But yeah. So, but not with a stone,
and not literally a bird.
Right. It kind of falls apart. My use of the word literally. So yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with how things played out. I just thought it was kind of weird. But I mean, like, it does make sense. This is what Sherlock was trying to do, or whatever. I don't know. This was, in a sense, Sherlock had called dibs, before Mary. Well, I don't know, actually.
I don't know.
I don't know who called dibs first.
I really liked the character of Magnuson, though.
Oh, yeah, he was super creepy.
I actually thought he was... I liked him as a villain much more than I liked Moriarty, to be perfectly honest.
Well, right, because Moriarty is kind of like this manic guy who, I guess in some respects kind of reminds me of the John Sim Master.
Mm.
And, and then you've got, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Magnuson, who's just this scheming creep guy. I don't know. And he's just like, he's almost... I don't know. I don't know.
He's much more of like a traditional villain, I feel like.
That's true. Yeah, and he's much, I guess, colder, which, is kind of just this eerie, I don't know. I have to say it's really, yeah, I don't know. He was just really creepy.
He is creepy.
But yeah, no, I did really like that character. And I mean, I kind of was sad to see him die because I thought he would make a really good, like, continuing villain, but at the same time I realized there was no other way to resolve that plot problem.
Yeah, there was no other way out of that situation. But I don't know. I thought he made a good villain for this story, and then he only really shows up in this one episode. He wasn't in either of the previous two episodes, was he? I don't remember.
At the end of the first episode, there's like one final scene where he's actually, this is a bit strange because I think he's sitting in his vaults and he's watching a video of John being pulled out of the fire, which is strange because actually, well, it's not necessarily strange because he actually does have that video. Like there is some actual footage of John being pulled out of that fire because he's watching it when John and Sherlock come in.
Yeah, that's true.
So that video, even if the rest of his vaults don't exist, that video does exist. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe that scene was supposed to be him, like, storing the video in his vaults, like, in his mind palace or whatever. Like, he had to, like, meditate or something while watching the actual video, and then it kind of got imprinted or whatever.
Could be.
I don't know.
I really like the whole idea that, like, all of his files and stuff were just in his mind palace, and I like the whole thing with the glasses too a lot.
Yeah.
I thought that was really clever because one of the things when Sherlock first started, one of the most intriguing things about it, I think, was the way the text showed up on screen. I was like, wow, this is kind of different. I don't see a lot of stuff like this, and so it sort of had this sort of unique feel to it. And then, like, by now it's years later and we've kind of gotten used to that, so it was nice that they managed to take that and do something kind of, interesting with it, where the text showing up on screen, and at first you're sort of tricked into thinking that it's actually being displayed on his glasses, whereas in reality it's just the same kind of thing like we usually see with, text messages and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. It's like his version of what Sherlock does, but you don't know that at first. Yeah, it's kind of funny that somehow with how Sherlock sets up, like how Sherlock the show sets up the idea of like observing things with, the text and how it appears, that like you just automatically assume that whatever Magnuson is seeing, he, like, obviously that's not something he's seeing in his head. That's obviously something that's being read off to him in his glasses because it's so different from what we're used to seeing. And it's just, yeah. Although in some sense, I wonder if that's supposed to be like, I don't know, some kind of like symbolism, like Sherlock's text is, in the environment, and it's like kind of, it's more organic, I guess, in a sense, whereas Magnuson is like, cold and removed like a computer. And, I wonder if that's like a theme they were going for.
Could be. I mean,
or something I just made up.
Sherlock is already pretty cold.
Well, that's true, but yeah, but at least he's not going around, peeing in people's fireplaces.
No, he certainly is.
That's the line he won't cross.
You know what that reminded me of?
What?
That reminded me of a scene from Jekyll.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen Jekyll.
There's a scene from Jekyll where they're like on the pier or something, and this group of kids like come up and start smearing ice cream all over his wife's face or something like that.
That's
right. And then
right.
it's just like, well, we're not going to do anything about it. Like, they don't feel like they can do anything about it.
Right.
And it's supposed to be sort of like really degrading and awful, and it kind of is, and it's really horrible to watch. And so I feel like this kind of echoed back to that for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that, but it's true. Those two scenes are very similar in that regard. It is, and that's I wonder if Moffat was just reusing his stuff.
He does that.
He does really do that.
Also, well, I mean, because there was a line from Jekyll that was recycled into The Doctor's Wife, which I mean was
really?
written by Gaiman, but Moffat worked on the script as well. It was.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, it was. Well, in Jekyll, the line is, "I love killing. It's like sex, but there's a winner." Whereas in Doctor Who, the line is, "I love biting. It's like kissing, only there's a winner."
Right. Yeah, that's kind of a sort of a more PG kid friendly line. But yeah, that's true. That is very similar, and I wonder if Gaiman did that intentionally, or maybe Moffat decided it should go.
Yeah, he there was an interview where someone asked him about it, and he mentioned that. Yeah, I don't remember what he said. He I think he might have said, "Well, no one watched Jekyll, so."
Well, there you go.
It was something like that, or maybe he just did it unconsciously. I don't know. Maybe he forgot he already used it.
It could be. I imagine that would become a problem. As a writer, the more you write, you increase the number of things that you've already written, and so it's harder to come up with things you've never written before. At least that's what I imagine.
Well, I mean, another example of that is that in this very same episode, I mean, John says. John goes into the crack den and says, "I'm looking for a friend, a particular one. I'm not just browsing." Which the Ninth Doctor says something very similar in The Empty Child. He says, "I'm looking for a blonde, a particular one. I didn't just wake up with a craving this morning," or something like that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I feel like this kind of thing happens all the time, especially with Moffat, and
well,
it doesn't bother me, but.
No, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I might become bothered if he reused stuff in the same that it first appeared in. But I mean, as long because there is a very real possibility that someone could be a huge Sherlock fan, but just never ever want to watch Doctor Who, and obviously reusing lines from something like Jekyll and something like Doctor Who, that's not going to be a problem because I mean, I would imagine that there aren't any little kids who've been watching Jekyll. I guess it's possible, but I mean, obviously there are more than just kids watching Doctor Who, but I'm just not. I just don't think that that's as unreasonable.
Yeah, I mean the people on Tumblr who have decided in advance to hate everything Moffat does and get angry about it have gotten angry about his recycling, but.
Well, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I guess I could understand being mad about that, but at the same time, I mean, do you only tell a good joke once? I mean, come on. If it's a good one, then get some more mileage out of it.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind.
But I mean, like, and that's kind of the thing is that the way that they reuse this stuff, it doesn't feel like it's recycled because it's done. It's not done all the time. It's only done very occasionally. I mean, like, we've just discussed, countless examples, but this is over a span of, like, almost a decade. So, it's not, I just don't, I can't be that bothered by it. So, but, I don't doubt that there are people on Tumblr bothered by this.
Yeah, it's really an exciting world to live in if you're the kind of person who wants to be bothered by things like this, because there's just so much out there for you to be bothered by.
That's true.
All you have to do is make the choice.
Yeah, there's really no dearth of things to hate. It's kind of beautiful.
Yep.
Oh, actually, can we just no, forget it.
What? No?
I was gonna bring up another example that I thought of something that has been used a lot in Doctor Who but popped up in Sherlock, and I actually just really it's almost not significant enough to bring up, so
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, one of the things, there's one point where it's when Sherlock is kind of luring Mary to that like abandoned house, fake house thing, and he says something about the clues being hidden in plain sight, which is of course what the exact phrasing used to describe the oldest question in the universe, which is of course just a very small thing.
Very small thing, but
it's still something I noticed. But anyway, sorry.
It's all right. I pried it out of you.
Yes, yes, you did. It's your fault.
It is. What did you think about Wiggins?
I liked him. He because at first you think he's just like this bit character, and then he actually turns out to be kind of useful, and he doesn't.
He does the deduction thingy.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and that's pretty neat. Although it seems, I don't know. It seems I realize that the idea of the supposed superpower that Sherlock has is that anyone can have this superpower, like anyone can build up this sort of sense of deduction and the powers of deduction and whatever.
Yeah, it's really not true.
well, I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure you can't just magically, or not magically, I'm sure you can't just train to be a Sherlock person.
You can't.
But the idea is that it is kind of like this thing that ordinary people can do. And I don't know, it just seems kind of strange though that there's this junkie who just happens to have these, and it could be that maybe in the, I don't know, in junkies worlds there's a lot of need for deductions. I don't know, like, I don't know, to try and sniff out undercover cops or something. But I don't know. It seems a little bit unreasonable to just have this random guy just throwing out all these deductions. I mean, like, I realize the whole show is built around the premise that there's this guy who can just make deductions about people upon first meeting them that are insanely accurate. But there's something that sort of strains credulity to have another one. I don't know.
Well, he could be the third Holmes brother.
He could,
because it is implied in this episode that there's a third Holmes brother.
Wait, when was that?
At the very end of the episode, after Sherlock has shot Magnuson, Mycroft is talking to whatever people it is that he's talking to about what's going to happen to Sherlock, and one of them says, "Are you having a moment of familial compassion?" And he says, "I don't go in for displays of brotherly love. Just look what happened to the other one."
Ah, I missed that. That's interesting, though. Do you think, I guess that could be something they explore more in the fourth season, if they so choose?
Yeah, this is not part of the original Sherlock Holmes canon, but it is part of sort of a headcanon that has developed over the course of the decades since the Sherlock Holmes stories were written, that there must have been an elder brother to the two, because Sherlock and Mycroft come from a family that are landowners, and so there must be some brother who stays home and manages the estate.
Ah, interesting.
And the name that is given to this headcanon brother is Sherrinford.
Sherrinford?
Sherrinford Holmes.
Okay.
Yes. But not only is this headcanon, Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so first of all, in the Doctor Who universe, Sherlock Holmes actually exists.
Right.
Because of some novels.
Okay.
And
wait. You mean Sherlock Holmes, the human being?
The human being, not Vastra. So in addition to Arthur Conan Doyle existing as per the Snowmen, and it's somehow Sherlock Holmes exists.
Okay.
Because he's in some of the New Adventures novels with the Seventh Doctor.
Okay.
But in addition, Mycroft is in them, and Sherrinford is in them as well.
Really?
Yeah, he's in at least one of them.
Okay. Well,
so Sherrinford exists in the Doctor Who universe.
Okay. Well, that definitely means if Series 4 features Sherrinford, there's gonna be a crossover. I think this is all leading up to that.
I sure hope so. I came up with an idea for like a story that would involve someone having to like there are unstable points in reality where Sherlock Holmes is both fictional and real, and there's like some extra dimensional being who is like assigned to Victorian London to run interference and prevent Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle from ever meeting or interacting with one another, and allow Sherlock Holmes to never discover that he is fictional, and allow Arthur Conan Doyle never to discover that Sherlock Holmes is real. This is an idea I had, but I'll probably never write it.
That would be kind of amazing, though. Yeah, I don't doubt, because, it's something that I think Moffat and Gatiss aren't at all afraid to sort of get into that sort of headcanon type stuff. So even if it's not something that actually appeared in the stories, the original stories, I definitely think that that's something that they could and would include.
Yeah, and if not Sherrinford, then they'll probably. Clearly they have indicated that there is a third brother. So yeah. I assume they're going to do something with that.
Well, right. I mean, like, and that could be a thing that I could definitely see them just using that as like, or saying that as a kind of throwaway line, because I don't think that's too unreasonable to do something like that. But I mean, I also think they are going to have a fourth series, and so I imagine they need ideas for that, and this would be a pretty good one. That there's, I don't know, suddenly this third brother that we just never knew about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could see that.
My favorite scene in the episode is the scene where he's just been shot.
Yeah.
And things start to go a little crazy in his head.
Well, yeah. I thought that was really cool. And like even it kind of reminded me a little bit of Inception, with like time kind of slowing down, and there's all this stuff running through Sherlock's head in the 3 seconds or whatever he has of consciousness, the sequence where he's falling, where that would have taken like a second of real time or whatever, it takes like 3 minutes in this sort of slowed down kind of thing. And I just thought that was all very cool, and I don't know, I like that.
Yeah, and I think it fits in with sort of the ideas in the episode that involve like the Mind Palace playing an important role, where there is this sort of internal world inside your head where you can have all of these strange things happen, where you can envision yourself interacting with other people, or walking across the room and looking at the mirror, and things like that. You don't have any actual access to special information that way. All you have there is the stuff that you already had access to, but you can go to that place and it can help you form connections. And so I think it fits pretty well into sort of the Mind Palace, which wasn't really wasn't even a thing in the first season, and I think it was first mentioned in the Hounds of Baskerville. Am I right?
Right. Well, wasn't it? It was something like they didn't even really refer to it, or it was kind of weird, because I think in that episode they do refer to it, but if I'm recalling correctly, it's not like Sherlock says, "Oh, I have a mind palace," and John instantly knows what that means. It's something like there are like. I think Sherlock kind of explains the concept and then says that it's a mind, or that his is a mind palace, and it's kind of and John like sort of reacts to that like it's a palace, sort of implying that Sherlock has gone all out on his mind thingy, and it's a palace. And it's kind of weird that now it's been transformed into like, oh yeah, everyone's got a mind palace. I mean,
who doesn't?
You know.
Well, that's a real thing, you know.
Well, I figured it was.
It's not called that. It's usually called the memory palace.
Okay.
And it's also called method of loci, or I don't know if that's how you pronounce that word. It's LOCI, which is a Latin for something. I guess location,
probably.
Maybe. But anyhow, it doesn't work the way it works in Sherlock. It's just a way that people who have... It's an advanced technique for memorization, which involves, linking facts to physical places. Usually, like in a familiar, like your own home or something. So, like you'll envision like this book on this shelf is, I don't know, all of the United States capitals or something like that. I don't have a very sophisticated understanding of it personally, but it allows you to memorize things like that.
Well, there you go.
But I don't think it works in quite the way it works in Sherlock.
I kind of imagined it was something that was real, but what they did was that they were taking it and sort of making it more of something that was a little bit better for the medium of television.
Yeah,
where it's like this physical place that he can kind of wander around in, and there's stuff everywhere, and it's all cluttered and messy and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, like Sherlock Holmes is not supposed to be realistic.
Well, right.
Like it's a superpower basically. It's not something you can do, like I mentioned before. So it does make sense that they take this real thing actual people do and then exaggerate it and stretch it. And I don't think it was part of the original Sherlock Holmes stories that he used this particular technique, but it makes sense for the character and it fits, I think.
Right. Well, and I mean, like Sherlock Holmes, the character of Sherlock Holmes was based on a real person.
Yeah, kind of.
Just not quite like that though.
Right. He was based on. I think he was based on a doctor.
Right.
A surgeon.
Right. Well, there you go.
Or a lizard woman. I think he was based on a lizard woman.
That sounds about right. There's a lizard woman making deductions with the help of her ninja sidekick or whatever. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. How did you think the revelation about Mary's true identity was handled? Did you like that aspect of it?
At first it seemed kind of weird to me. Like, what's going on? I mean, when they first sort of revealed that, she's this super spy killing machine, I don't know, I thought it was kind of strange because, I don't know, it just seemed like way too big of a coincidence that there was like, oh, wow, so you're telling me that John just happens to marry this super spy or whatever? But then they kind of, and that was, I think even Stephen Moffat was aware that this was something that was unreasonable, and so, I kind of liked that scene where they all sat down and Sherlock kind of explained, well, no, you're attracted to not serial killer. You're attracted to psychopaths. It's how this works.
Yeah, I don't think that's really what the word psychopath means, though. I think Stephen Moffat really likes that word, but doesn't really know what it means.
Wait, I thought it was sociopath that he didn't know what it meant.
I don't think he knows what either of them mean.
No, probably not.
Like he keeps calling the Doctor and River Song psychopaths.
That's true. Well, I feel like it's this right. I think it's this highly fictionalized. It's like this fictionalized version of what a psychopath must be. Mm-hmm. Although, I'm pretty sure that a psychopath is someone who's completely disconnected from reason or something along those lines, and I don't think that
they're completely disconnected from empathy, I think.
Well, I thought that was a sociopath. Or am I also?
Maybe I don't know what these terms mean. Maybe no one knows what these terms. I bet someone does.
I bet there is a psychologist that can tell us, but only a psychologist.
But that psychologist is not on this podcast.
No, they are not.
Yeah. So I was a little disappointed that she wasn't just a regular person, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like in a sense that that was kind of. how I felt too. I mean, like, once again, Sherlock sits down and explains, like, well, this is the type of person you're drawn to. But at the same time, there's no real reason why that needs to be. And yeah, it seems a little bit strange that they're sort of tacking on this. I don't know. It would have been nice if she could just be a real normal person. But no.
Nope.
It's kind of, I don't know. If I were to say that that's a flaw in Stephen Moffat's writing, it's that everyone's always got to be someone. As strange as that sounds.
I think he's largely uninterested in normal people.
Right.
I think Lestrade is kind of a normal person. Molly is kind of a normal person. I guess you could say Rory is kind of a normal person. Kind of. I mean, he was also like a plastic centurion for thousands of years, but
right.
But we forget that. And Clara is basically a normal person too, I guess. So, but for the most part, he tends to like telling stories about abnormal people.
And so, and I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. I think that in some sense, I kind of see, like, if this show is going to be about this pair of larger-than-life characters of Sherlock and Watson, we need a larger-than-life wife for John, because otherwise she'll just be sidelined or whatever. I don't know. And, like, I mean, I can sort of see how, like, you'd want, the character of Mary to be just as significant as the other characters, and I see that, but I don't know. I feel like it might not have been as necessary as perhaps Stephen Moffat thought it was.
Yeah, I think a traditional sort of Sherlock Holmes and Watson interpretation basically makes Watson into the normal person.
Right.
Whereas Moffat kind of has him as this guy who likes to think of himself as a normal person but really isn't.
Right.
So it's just kind of interesting how he's gone and done that.
Yeah.
No normal people. They're not interesting.
Well, and normal people aren't interesting, so
no.
I can't blame him. I can't blame Stephen Moffat. Except, well, I mean, of course that's not really true, but, it is true in Stephen Moffat's conception of reality.
Or at the very least of his conception of fiction.
Right. And that's the best place for it, I think. It wouldn't be quite as reasonable.
For him to eliminate all normal people from reality.
Right. That might be just a tad bit, excessive.
Murderous.
Right, genocidal. They did the thing with the credits again on PBS, and this time it spelled out Milverton, which makes sense.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's not terribly interesting.
Weird.
Yeah, sure is.
Sure is weird. So did you miss him? Moriarty.
Oh,
did you miss him?
Did I miss him? It's right. That's the question. That is the question. Did I miss him? I think I did.
I didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
I think
the show was fine without him.
I don't know. I think, well, it's weird because this show does work without him, and that's something that I wasn't sure it could, because I really thought Moriarty gave Sherlock someone to fight, someone who was like on equal footing, who was sort of just just like this really bad dude, but Sherlock's got to fight him, and I kind of felt like with him being dead, that was going to like what was like Sherlock wouldn't have that same sort of adversary or whatever.
Yeah, but I think even though this series did kind of replace him with a different adversary,
true.
I think the sign of 3 basically proves that whatever you might have thought this series needs to be in order to work, it doesn't need to be that. It could just go ahead and be something completely different. It can do whatever it wants, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
That's true. That is true. I definitely think that the show does work without Moriarty. I mean, I think this show is able to perpetuate itself however it likes, and it'll be just fine. And I do you think Moriarty is actually alive, or do you think it's just like a copycat?
Well, I don't think he's really alive. I think it's his some remnant of his criminal network.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it must be.
I mean, that's kind of how it was in the original stories, that from time to time you'd still hear about some remnant of his network after he was dead. I mean, I think if he were properly back, then we wouldn't just have like an animated GIF of him or indeed an animated GIF. Neither of those. We would have like him saying and doing something.
Right. Well, I mean, that could be maybe Moriarty knew that there was a way he could get on every television on the planet, perhaps just in Great Britain, I don't know. But he didn't have the technical capability to actually broadcast video, and that he knew he had to just GIF that or GIF it, depending. I don't think that he would be really back. I mean, obviously characters can come back from the dead in Sherlock.
Well, I mean, I don't really remember because I haven't seen the series 2 finale in quite some time. But how definite was his death? I mean,
pretty definite.
We saw him put a gun in his mouth and pull the trigger, but do we know that it was a real gun? Do we? I mean, I don't remember. Do we like see his brains get blown out? I really don't remember.
I don't think we see the actual brains go anywhere, but I'm pretty sure there's a shot of him lying in a pool of blood, and obviously that's not definitive because
so he could have had like a blood capsule stuck on the back of his head or something.
Right. We see Sherlock in a pool of his own blood at the end of the episode, and he's not really dead. So there's nothing definitive in that sense. So I don't know. He could really be back, but I highly doubt it. I did not believe for even a second. Well, actually, it's funny because I believed it. All the characters who were looking at their screens and they were like, "I don't believe it, he's back," and I was like, "Oh, obviously they're talking about Moriarty," or I think I thought they were talking about Moriarty, and I was like, "Oh my God, they're all so sure he's back. He must be back somehow." And then they the camera pans over and you see the screen and it's like, just this still image with the mouth moving, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, maybe this was a really convincing Adobe After Effects movie for everyone in the Sherlock universe, and like they've never seen anything.
They've never seen one of those Jib Jab cartoons.
Right. Right, yeah. So this is something that they've never seen before, and they're all freaking out because they think it's like this witchcraft.
Yeah. To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he were back. I just am leaning towards thinking that he probably isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they can do whatever they want.
Oh well, absolutely. And I mean, they have done whatever they want. So yeah, I don't doubt that they could bring him back if they so chose. I'm also leaning and kind of hoping also that he's not actually back, because I'd probably prefer him to not be back. But once again, I don't know. I thought I would prefer him to always be alive. So I guess I just don't know what to expect from Sherlock. That's way too big of a coincidence that John.
Hello.
Oh, did you lose me?
Hello? Yeah, I lost you briefly, but you're back.
Oh. I think we have to assume that was a problem on my end.
I mean, we don't have to like attribute supernatural powers to my Fios connection. It's like, I mean, it's not so infallible that everything must be your fault.
I don't know though. I think we have to assume it though.
Oh, okay.
It may not be true, but we have to assume it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We have to simplify our assumptions, like removing friction and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, what were you saying? Sorry.
I don't remember.